Why do you think radical Muslims, give me one nation that adopted radical Islam and succeeded? Never.
No.
So the UAE is a moderate Arab and Muslim state. Saudi Arabia is an Arab and moderate Muslim state. Saudi Arabia decided, and by the way, the Crown Prince was so honest with that and was so straightforward. Yes, we had a very dark ages in our country, but we moved forward, we fixed our curricula, we fixed our education system, and we moved forward. We left the radical ideology behind. So I can win an argument with those who say the custodian of the two holy mosques in the Muslim world, you think you know Islam better than him? Or you think you know better Islam than the UAE? Of course not. And look at the societies that adopted moderate Islam. Look at their GDP. Look at their economy. Look at how people living there. Yeah. And look at how people live in Afghanistan or in other radical Muslim states. This is how I would win the argument.
Okay, but you can say the same thing about back to Gaza. You know, if the Gazans choose Hamas
17 years ago.
It's 17 years ago.
And yes. Hamas sabotaged any more election after that. We have to state facts because these details make the difference. Yes, Hamas came to power, but it was one election that was sabotaged later. Yeah. Hamas did not win any more elections. And I can tell you that there are really innocent people in Gaza. There are people in Gaza who protested against Hamas and paid their life for it. We cannot just say there are no innocents in Gaza. Yeah. There are innocents in Gaza.
Yeah, that's true. But there are also children, generations who brought up in those 17 years of Hamas rule. So how do you change those people in?
You cannot change those people by changing education because it's too late, but you can change the regulations. You can change the regulations. Why do they, I ask you again, those protesting outside, why when they come to the UAE they behave? Why so many Gazans when they come to the UAE they would never make anything wrong? Because the regulations are so strict and there is no tolerance for these acts. You know, by the way, there was an incident of an NYU student in Abu Dhabi, a Syrian American who intimidated Jewish students in the graduation ceremony, and he shouted "Free Palestine" in front of them. He just went to the Jewish students and he shouted "Free Palestine." He was taken away from the graduation ceremony. He was interrogated, and months later, he was deported. Zero tolerance to anti-Semitism. And by the way, this is not an act. And those who criticize the UAE by saying, well, you are suppressing freedom of speech. That is not correct. This is not freedom of speech. When you go to Jewish students, in specific, and you shout "Free Palestine" in a graduation ceremony, you are intimidating them and you're telling them you should not feel safe in the UAE. So the UAE authority tells them, well, you know what? He is wrong and he will be punished. So these are the kind of regulations.
Yeah.
These are the kind of regulations that will make any anti-Semitic, when they come to the UAE, will think again if they ever do something wrong.
Yeah. Okay, talking about that, you talked about the Muslim Brotherhood. Going to the streets, going to New York, to Amsterdam, everywhere in the West, and you talked about the naivety of the West. So what is the trick of the Muslim Brotherhood to infiltrate in the West, and why is it so dangerous?
So, first of all, it is so dangerous because they are taking over so many Muslim institutions, and this is also one of the things that the moderate Muslims need to take into consideration, that we need to compete with them.
The mosques?
Yes, yeah. The mosques. They take control of, and they tell people that we are the official spokesman of the Muslim population. But they hide their true intentions. You know why we know that? Because we welcome them. By the way, the Muslim Brotherhood, the UAE is the most vicious front against the Muslim Brotherhood. But you know that they started in the UAE in 1972? You know that they flourished in Dubai? You know that Sheikh Mohammed and Sheikh Abdullah and Sheikh Zayed welcomed them and really trusted them? But do you know that they planned a coup d'etat against the royals in Abu Dhabi?
Yep.
So we know how they think. We know they use religion. They use religion against the systems to take control. They want domination. I want to tell you one thing. Many radical Muslims who come to Europe, they don't appreciate that what Europe has given them. They don't want to assimilate, they want to dominate. I asked some people that I know from North Africa who went to France and who became French citizens. And then they say, I hate France. Then why are you in France? Well, the passport is good, I'm enjoying the benefits. You see, very blunt. But this is the truth. They don't really, they take things for granted. And why do they take things for granted? Because your laws allow it to happen. So this is why.
So we have to change our laws.
You need to change some of your regulations, at least to protect your own societies, by the way. I'm just telling you, there is a danger in this ideology you do not know, and none of them outside, or the white European or American Gen Zs, will tell you better for the Middle East than Arabs and Muslims who come from the Middle East.
Okay, so the politicians should listen and act.
I really spoke with so many politicians in Canada, and I told them, by the way, there are people who are supporting Hamas in Canada. No way, give me a proof. And I showed them some tweets. Well, you know, we have to translate it first. We have to put it in context, and we have to understand, do they really mean it or they don't mean it? But we are telling you they mean it. And by the way, when you indulge these terrorists, or when you indulge these people, guess what? They will make trouble in your country. Have you heard of what happened, the stampede in Germany 4 months ago, or people doing stabbing people in the Netherlands and stuff? Because of the lack of decision making. And the foreign minister of the UAE said that 8 years ago. He gave a prophecy. He said there will come a day when Europe, because of the lack of decision making, you will have extremism born, raised, and come from Europe, not from our states. So you should really change your regulations, and you should listen, at least consult with us. What is, I'm telling you, it's not a regulation against Muslims. You cannot be more Muslim than I am. But a regulation against radical form of Islamic extremism that is dangerous, not only to me as a Muslim, but to you as a European as well.
Yeah. So there are a couple of politicians in the room, so they listen.
I hope they listen to the people who know. I hope they listen to the people in the Middle East. We really want the benefits. We really want the Netherlands to flourish. We really want Europe to flourish. We really want to have a successful collaboration between the UAE, Saudi, and the Middle East, with Israel integrated, and the Europeans and the Americans. I'm not saying something that should make you worry. I'm not saying that. I'm saying things that would make you prosperous, and at the same time give you a warning. This is why I always say, even immigration, you don't only need to background check those who come to your country. You need to do a due diligence. You need to inspect so well the history of the people who come. Why do they want to come to the Netherlands? Why do they want to come to America? To assimilate or to dominate? To assimilate or to dominate? And you have to, by the way, even in our Arab countries, when people are given citizenship, if it's not actually something that is very common, but even when people are given citizenship, they are monitored for 10 years just to make sure that they assimilate. We don't want to have a coup d'etat in our country by immigrants who want to break the system.
Loai Al-Sharif, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.